Hello, everyone. I would like to welcome you to this session of the University Global Coalition 2020 virtual gathering titled Surfing the Waves of Educational Transformation in the 21st Century. I am Professor Ahmet Aydemir. I am a faculty member at Bahçeşehir University in Business Administration and also the director of the United Nations Institute for Training and Research affiliated training center, SİFAD Istanbul. So, as you know, the new century has brought different phases of educational technology that have impacted the quality and reach of technology and science education. From asynchronous education to plesiochronous timing models, today, 21st century education has culminated in a wave of synchronous education. This wave, accelerated by the novel coronavirus, is expected to have a profound impact on the whole decade. Today, with our guests, we will be discussing how these waves have removed several barriers in education, space, time, and access, and contributed to the improvement of quality in education and better training citizens for the skills required by the labor market. Our experts today are Professor Carlos Alario Hoyos and Professor Carlos Delgado Clos from Universidad Carlos III de Madrid and UNESCO Chair on Scalable Digital Education for All. Before giving a word to them, I would like to point out to all attendees that your microphones and cameras are automatically muted throughout the session. To ask questions to the presenters, please use the Q&A question and answer tool located in the tool ribbon on the right side of your screen. We encourage you to chat with your fellow attendees using the chat feature, also located on the right side of your screen. One last thing I would like to draw your attention to is the slider bar beneath the video and content windows, which allows you to adjust the size of each window for a better viewing experience. If you experience any technical issues during the session, please describe the problem in the moderator chat located just beneath the primary chat, and a member of our support team will be happy to assist you. Thank you for coming to the session, and now I would like to give the word to our professors, Carlos, and again, Professor Carlos. So while we're waiting for the problem to be solved, let's actually talk a bit about education and what we have come to in the last months. As you all know, there was already a transformation from a standard face-to-face or in-location education model to a more digitalized one. But of course, this transformation was, advancing a bit slowly because people were, in theory and mostly considering face-to-face education in many of the places that education goes on, in many of the institutions. However, with the advent of the coronavirus, everyone, they had to either stay home or they were very limited in terms of going outside, especially in gathering in different places like classrooms. So education had to be moved to an online platform. Now, this move, of course, happened a bit quickly. So some institutions and some individuals did not have time to prepare for this change. But of course, now that we are 5 or 6 months into the virus, a lot of institutions have now been getting used to the way of online education and rather than face-to-face education. And now Professor Carlos will talk a bit more in detail about this shift and change in education.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. There were technical problems. Apparently, I was sharing the video and the PowerPoint. Now I'll try again to share the PowerPoint presentation. Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Can you see yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the introduction. This is my presentations and done by Carlos Alario and by me. We are both from Universidad Carlos III, Charles III of Madrid in Spain, and the title is Surfing the Waves of Education Transformation in the 21st Century. And I will start with a question, with an equation. How much is 4 plus 17? Maybe some of you think it's 21. No. It's 8. And I will share the last slide of the presentation right now in order to advance a little bit what I will be talking about. 4, quality education, plus 17 partnerships equals to 8. But let me start with 4 and how education, technology is helping to transform quality education throughout the world. So let's start briefly. You know the term Industry 4.0, the first, the second, the third, the fourth generation or in industry. I will try to make a similar example in education and try to find also 4 generations, 4 transformations, 4 important milestones in education. The 0 education would be education without technology, education 0.0. 1.0 would be with the arrival of the book, the printing press, and also the whiteboard, the blackboard, the green board that help us to convey education to the students. So it's the passing from the oral education to the written education, both for presentation with the blackboard and for dissemination with the book. What would be education 2.0? Education 2.0 would come with electricity. Electricity that allows us to present with slides, be it slides that we have hand-drawn or we are presenting from a computer. This is an important milestone. The third one, also important milestone, is the internet. With the arrival of the internet, we can say that we have arrived to education 3.0. What are the parameters, the elements of this education 2.0? Examples are learning management systems that allow us to put documents on the cloud, on some server, can be shared with students. Examples are also MOOCs, massive open online courses, where they are not only PDF documents or some slides, but videos, interactive quizzes, and forums for the exchange of information between students. Therefore, the cloud computing, the internet helps as is a place where professors and students meet and can exchange information and educational material. Shared docs, whiteboards, engagement apps, etc. So in summary, so far, very fast, we have gone from the acoustic, the oral education 0.0 to the mechanical, written education with the book, the printing press, to the electrical, about presentations, and the internet-based, the cloud-based 3.0. Let me make another example now. You know the states of the matter, the solid, the liquid, and the gas. Well, in a way, these 3 generations reflect very much the information, how the information is stored in a solid element, like in books, which are very solid, or in books, very solid, very rigid, very static, or second generation 2.0 in a liquid form, like audiovisual resources that can be copied perfectly, that adaptable, replicable on different devices. And 3.0 would be like gas, which are like digital resources that can be distributed freely if they are not confined. This gives rise to open educational resources or scalable, massive open online courses. So the information, the educational material, the digital one is like gas, that it will expand if not restricted explicitly. But let's look a bit in more detail of this education, in this education 3.0, and more precisely into the 21st century. We have seen 3 waves of the 2000s, of the 10s, and of the 20s. What are the characteristics of the education material that we know that is digital, that is scalable, etc., in these 3 decades? First, we have the first wave, which I call asynchronous education technology, like courseware. MIT started in 2002 the OpenCourseware initiative that had been followed by many other universities. Also by us, we have more than 250 courses which are available freely online for everybody. Also, the example is Khan Academy that has videos, exercises that are freely available anytime, asynchronously, no time restrictions for learning. The second wave would be, this is the first wave, 2000s, OpenCourseware, etc. The second wave, I would call it plesiochronous. Plesio what? Well, I'll explain it in a minute. Plesiochronous edtech. The examples here are MOOCs, basically. The pacing in the first wave was asynchronous. You could learn with OpenCourseware anytime at your own pace. The MOOCs, however, when they originally came, then there are many variants, but the original form was every week you get new material. Every week maybe you get an exercise at the end you have to pass to advance. So there is some synchronicity, every week something else, and in between, every Tuesday maybe, you have the freedom to advance at your own pace. You can look at the videos whenever you want, you can do the exercise whenever you want, but then 1 week afterwards, you have a new milestone. You have a new set of content, a new set of videos, etc., for you to distribute. This is what we call plesiochronous. This is in the telecommunication areas used very much, so that there's some synchronicity, but between the milestones, there are some asynchronous possibilities, and this is a great advantage. Examples here are MOOCs, first the connectivist MOOCs by Siemens, Downs, and Cormier, and later on the ex-MOOCs with initiatives like edX, like Coursera, like FutureLearn, like MyriadX, and like many others. Now, what would be the third wave in the 2020? The third wave would be the wave of synchronous education technology, where everything happens at the same time. And the most important example is what is happening now in a video call, in a video conference, where students and professors all are at the same moment sharing information, sharing education material. Apart from the video conference, there are many other elements that can be also shared on the cloud, like video conference. You know that, for instance, Zoom, the value of Zoom is what the value of 7 airlines altogether. Of the 7 major airlines, the largest 7 airlines added together is the value of Zoom. So this was a big wave, a big breakthrough that has changed the world due to the pandemic. Of course, there are many other Teams, Google Meet, etc., what we're using here, BlueJeans. But you can collaborate in the cloud also, sharing documents, like, for instance, Google Student Education, Google Docs. You can share whiteboards, like, for instance, Google Jamboard, where students and teachers together on the cloud draw something, build something together. You can use apps for motivation, where the teacher can ask questions, like in Book Club, etc., or Kahoot, or Socrates for Mentimeter, or many others, so where there's an interaction through the cloud. Or you can have discussions, like in Kialo, for instance, where you can discuss the pros and cons of some argument, and then discuss together and organize it in a nice way. So education 1, 2, and 3.0, and the 3.0 I have divided into 3 waves of asynchronous, plesiochronous, and synchronous educational technology. Now, let's make a stop now. And I'll pass the turn over to Carlos so that he can present.
Okay, so very fast, let's say, we would like to ask you to the attendees of this session to go to Book Club. Carlos already projected the link. I'm gonna share my screen, and I hope you can see it. Hope you can see it, because I don't get any feedback. So let's see if you can go to this booklab.com/QGRFKR. And we're going to ask you 2 simple questions in order to make you reflect and know a little bit more on how the third wave has impacted your teaching. Okay, there is some delay. I'm going to move forward. There is some delay between the time I'm speaking and the time you receive these images. So again, I would like you to go to booklab.com/QGRFKR. And the first thing I would like to ask is, what's the killer app? So what's the main application that you think has definitely changed the way you were teaching thanks to this third wave, and that you have discovered it during this this pandemic, this change in the university, or you have maybe rediscovered it for a different purpose? Okay. So we have WhatsApp, we have Zoom, of course. The video conferencing tools have been very, very important, no matter if it is Zoom, if it is BlueJeans, as we are using it here, if it is, for example, Google Meet or Blackboard Collaborate. So we are more and more teaching online in a synchronous way. So Zoom and Teams, to video conferencing tool, even WhatsApp, of course, Adobe Connect. So you're mainly focusing here in tools for synchronous communication, not for building, maybe for building things, collaborating, and so on. But at least we have some tools for synchronous communication. And we would like to ask you also, from an educational perspective, what are the pros and cons of this third wave in relation to how the quality of education has been affected, or how has been transformed? Probably we have lost something, we have gained something. Of course, we have learned a lot during these months. That has been great, of course. But probably there was also some things that need to be improved in the future. So while you are writing, we get here Google Docs that comes probably from the previous question. So let's see if we get something, if we get some more text from you. Probably you're typing. This could be a little bit longer. So definitely, I would say that we have gained a lot of knowledge here. We have learned how to use plenty of tools during these months that we didn't know about. And yeah, of course, we definitely are missing the contact with our students, the physical contact. Recorded lectures for students to revise the lecture. We have learned how to produce videos, maybe during this time or even earlier. This is very important for the students to practice and revise the contents. And if done right, all types of education can retain a certain level of quality. Of course, this is what we want to have. Probably we don't, here, last con, too much time spent and struggling with technology and not content. Yeah, definitely. And accessibility for students. And let me see. Who can't access traditional classroom spaces. Yeah, we gain accessibility, and the time has been over. So as we don't have much time, I'm handing over back to Carlos. So I'm stop sharing right now. So the floor is yours, Carlos.
Okay, thank you very much, Carlos. So let's summarize what we have seen right now in these two parameters. On the one hand, the pacing. We have seen several models of pacing, and it's important. It's not just a little detail. It's important on how to motivate people and how to learn better. On the other hand, the thing we have seen that the granularity of the information has been smaller and smaller. You know, probably this tale, no? You get an empty jar, you fill it with golf balls. Is it full? Well, but then you put pebbles, and you can even make it fuller. You can put some sand and even put more things, and you can put a couple of bottles of beer and to make it full. So the information has become more granular, more smaller, not just a big book, a big manuscript, but pieces of educational resources, and therefore they can be shared, they can be used for education much better. So some people talk about liquid or fluid education. This is what we have reached right now. Now, these two things, technology, pervasive technology, with liquidity of education, and this synchronicity or plesiochronicity or asynchronicity has allowed us to make quality education available all over the world. But what can you do with this possibility? Of course, you can make courses. We have done, for instance, one course on teaching Java with more than 500, maybe already 600,000 registrations so far, available in English and Spanish all over the world. But this is really not enough. The question is, what shall you give, the fish or the rod? What shall you do, teach something or teach how to teach? And this is the second part of the presentation, where I will present 2 projects where we have partnered with others in order to teach how to teach. Precisely 2 projects, one in Latin America and one in Southeast Asia, one the MOOC Maker projects and one the competency project, but they have just finished at the end of last year. The MOOC Maker project with Latin America, with Guatemala, with Colombia, with Chile, together with partners in Europe, in Portugal and Austria. We have been the coordinators. And in this project, the MOOCmaker.org project, you can see the website. We have made many training workshops under the Erasmus Plus sponsorship by the European Commission. There were funds for the Latin American partners to set up studios. And then with this training and with this equipment, there have been 17 MOOCs that have been designed and deployed with many participants on the needs, on the specific needs in the region, the Latin American region. It is they teaching others what they need and in their local needs, and with a big collaboration network. This is one of the projects. The other one is the competency project in Southeast Asia, which has also finished December last year. Was also an Erasmus Plus capacity building, a project in higher education, where we have had partners in the Netherlands, in Germany, and in Spain. So OUNL, University of Saarbrücken, and GEDAF in Germany, and UC3M in Spain, and in Southeast Asia, in the Philippines, in Malaysia, and Indonesia. Ateneo de Malian University, University of Philippines, USM in Penang, Unimas in Kuching, and Indonesia, University Brawijaya, and University Samratulangi. And there again, these are the partners. There again, we have had local use cases, local needs, particularly in Malaysia, empowering single mothers, in the Indonesia coastal area conservation through ecotourism and entrepreneurship in the fisheries sector, and in the Philippines, MOOCs for rural health workers in the province of Pangasinan, which is north of Manila. So for all these particular needs, we have been traveling to Barrio. So this is 5 flights plus 4 hours of car to reach this remote community in Barrio, which is in Borneo, in Sarawak, close to the border between Malaysia and Indonesia, in Malaysia. And there we have met these single mothers and taught them how to convey the information so that they can teach others, so that the oral traditions could be preserved through MOOCs for the coming generations. Similarly, in Southern Java and North Sulawesi, in Indonesia, and similarly in Philippines, in the province of Pangasinan, in Dagupan and Pangasinan province. So this is a summary of the different aspects, for instance, in the single mothers in Barrio and Long Manga and other countries, about baking, beekeeping, composting, etc. So they made the videos, and so that these MOOCs could be done there locally for the local needs. So let me try to finalize with some concluding remarks. The importance of empowering, not just using the technology to teach, but to teach, how to use the best practices that we have been acquiring during the last years of MOOC development, so that others can develop their own MOOCs on their own needs in the particular culture. It was a tremendous opportunity. This here is some presentation on how the design phase took place on the board. The importance of giving the equipment, the training, taking the advantage of the local culture. These are the single mothers in Barrio, in Sarawak, in Malaysia, and where we have met the local people. And then you realize how many beautiful people there are all around the world, which have had tremendous experiences, and tremendously grateful also for the small contribution we have made. So let me finish now by saying that you need good technology to have quality education, scalable education, digital education throughout the world, but you need to partner with others. We've partnered with the European Commission, who have provided the funds, but with local communities, with local partners who have conveyed the needs and the means to really make the courses that are needed locally, and in this way achieve an economic growth on the needs which are needed locally. And this ends my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Carlos, for a very timely and very informative presentation. Dear participants and attendees, if you have any questions, you can ask them. We have almost 15 minutes for questions and answers. And I would like to begin the session by actually asking both of the professors a question. Now, the question is the question that you asked us. What do you think are the pros and cons of this third wave of the new 21st century educational systems?
I mean, we have at our disposal now a number of tools, and we have to find the right combination, combining time, combining space, combining access, so that we make the right package for each individual need. No, so I think there's no, one cannot say that there's the perfect combination. It depends on the local needs. So we have seen also in our these two projects the importance of following up and of tutoring with local people, so that they can really involved and really understand the needs for conveying the information. So I think the pandemic, with all the bad problems that it has come up, but has tremendously pushed up, in particular, the synchronous tools, so that now people globally, all over the world, are much more digitally aware and have the skill set that is needed for providing education wherever it is needed.
Thank you. And Professor Alario Hoyos?
Yeah, maybe if I may add, so these different waves have affected universities at different moments, and those who reacted well to the first wave were more prepared for the second wave, and those who were prepared for the second wave were better prepared for the third wave. So in our case, when we had to close down and go home and teach virtually, all those professors who had been prepared beforehand to record videos, to have MOOCs online, they could use these materials to better continue with their classes. Those who did not, then they had to rush to learn how to do these videos from home. What am I going to do now? How do I give support online to my students? So yeah, this has been one of the important things. And maybe another one was, if you were prepared because you collected a lot of data, you could understand better your students. So the field of learning analytics, which is quite vast and has allowed to do, of course, research, but also make decisions based on the data we get from the actions from our students in all types of contents, or the communication between them, has been also very useful. And we have a lot of data, we have a lot of information. If we use this data properly, we can reach to every student in the best way possible. So that's it.
Thank you, Professor Alario Hoyos. I would like to continue with a question that is actually from a comment that one of our attendees have listed. When you had asked the advantages of this third wave, one of our participants said that reaching those people who were not able to be reached physically in schools. Now, that is a very good comment. The latest UNESCO numbers shows that almost 1 billion students are still out of the education system due to the pandemic. And we see that a large number of these students, so towards 400 million or even more, cannot be in the system because they don't have the right hardware, right equipment to actually reach distance education. So my question to both of you is, there's obviously let's say a digital divide, digital inequality that was caused because of this let's say, mandatory shift to distance education. How do you think, as trainers, as educators, or even as technology providers, can we solve this situation? Can we solve this problem to create more equality in terms of the reach and accessibility of distance education?
I think that the technology is working in the right direction. I mean, maybe not everybody has a computer, of course, but maybe smartphones are much broader in coverage. So, and even if the screen is smaller, this is a device which gives a window of opportunity. Of course, the other part is the internet connection, so the availability of connecting. But this is also getting cheaper, better technology, faster technologies that, well, are coming up. So both the miniaturization of devices and both in the reach of Wi-Fi or internet connections is getting broader. Of course, not all is technology. You need hardware, you need software, you need peopleware, you need facilitators, you need trainers, you need people accompanying. No? But when you see what some initiatives like Commonwealth of Learning are doing with these very small devices that can be even if you have no electricity, but you can share Khan Academy content on small devices, etc. So you see that there's some light at the end of the tunnel. So the technology is working in the right direction.
Thank you, Professor. And Professor Arariohayos?
I think that the problem should be addressed in different ways depending on where you are, where the students are, of course. So, for instance, if I think locally here in Spain, where we are, when we went for the lockdown, some students did not have the right equipment to follow the classes. Well, in that case, then there were initiatives at the university level in order to provide with laptops or computers to these students to follow the course. But this is one side. And on the other side, if you cannot, as Professor Delgado Clos said, if you cannot even have a laptop, then you have the smartphone. And one of the important outputs of the competency project was actually to bring content to isolated areas where you could have these small devices where you loaded the content so that the people in that area could access that content, for instance, from the smartphones or from a telecenter where they had some computers to be able to access the content. So depending on what's your target, you will go for some or some other solutions.
Thank you. I would definitely agree with that. And furthermore, state that you can even use radio or TV broadcasting to reach those people who do not have internet or laptops or, tablets. And also with the advent of 5G, maybe we will see more usage in terms of cell phones and mobile devices. Now, Professor Delgado Clos mentioned peopleware, so software, hardware, and peopleware. So I would like to ask about that. The question is, now that the method, the system of education has changed, how has the role of the educator, the teacher, changed in terms of both responsibilities and also capabilities? Like, how should a 21st century teacher be that is a good teacher in this 21st century education system?
I would like to summarize it with 3 words or with 4 words. Less lecturing, more mentoring. So mentoring instead of lecturing, I think, should be the key idea. Content is available more and more freely, but now you need the educator to guide, to select content, to accompany, to help in case of problems. So I think the educator should be more an accompanying person rather than a wise man that knows it all and that conveys their wisdom. No, because there's a lot of content everywhere, and now you need to curate this content. You need to help when people have problems. You need to point to the right place. So my response would be, instead of a lecturer, be a mentor, and it would help everybody.
Thank you. And I would definitely agree that the teacher's new role is a bit more of a facilitator than that of just a lecturer.
Exactly.
Professor Alario Hayes.
Yeah, maybe mentioning the TPAC, so the combination of content, technology, and pedagogy, which is the key for today's teachers. And also the European framework of digital competences, which have gathered a number of competencies, digital competencies that today's teachers would need. So a teacher today needs to be able to create rich content, maybe rich audiovisual content. For that, you need some specific skills. So you need to be in front of the camera, you need to behave properly, you need to reuse content from third parties, and know what is the copyright issues that are related to reusing content. You need to be creative in the way in which you assess your students, and especially if you go on an online environment. So what are you going to use? Just a multiple choice test to assess all the contents with a true or false question? That doesn't make sense at all. No? And of course, it's important to train the teachers for these competencies. Otherwise, it's impossible that they acquire the right level.
Thank you, Professor. And of course, what you're mentioning is correct in that there's obviously a need for technological literacy at all levels in this new type of education era. And it's a hygiene factor. So it's necessary but not sufficient. So probably not only teachers, but everyone now should have a technology literacy. Before we close the session, I would like to ask a short final question. Today we talked about the third wave of education. What's next? What can we expect from the fourth wave?
Well, glad you posed this question. Let me share a slide. By chance, I have prepared a few additional slides because I talked about the education 1, 2, and 3, but not about 4. And what is education 4.0, like Industry 4.0? What comes next? What comes next? So if 3.0 is the age of cloud computing, of the internet, I think in education 4.0 is the era of learning analytics, of machine learning, of artificial intelligence, where the fourth stage of matter is plasma. So this would be a plasma-like smaller computable pieces of information. Which in normal terms would be, now we go from the book to the visual material to the digital educational resources, now to data sets which are analyzable, which are computable, where you can get knowledge out of this information, where you can get insights, and you can also have the education or these insights inform how you educate. So I think the next step is learning analytics, is machine learning, artificial intelligence, but I think we are just at the beginning. This is just a promise whether we are seeing it's coming, but it's not yet fully deployed, and I think they need a lot of research to be made in order to have it really in production and of useful production and usability within educational systems. The mic is off, Ahmed.
Thank you. Professor Alario Hoyos, if you have any words.
Well, nothing else to be added. That was perfect because the slides were ready.
Yeah, I would like to mention to the participants that we didn't actually talk about the questions before, so this was actually really coincidental. But thank you to Professor Delgado-Close for answering it with a prepared slide. I would like to thank all the participants and, of course, our guests of honor, Professor Carlos Delgado-Close and Professor Alario Hoyos, for their wonderful, informative comments on the future of education. As Professor Delgado-Close said, we are at the beginning of this new transformation. With the advent of the pandemic, we had a mandatory shift, but now that we know the system, it is time to actually use it more efficiently, more beneficially to reach more people, actually to reach everyone throughout the world so that we can make education inclusive, accessible, and of the highest quality possible. I would also like to thank the University Global Coalition for organizing such a wonderful and informative, fruitful event, and hope to see you all in another session. Thank you, professors, and thank you, dear participants.
Thank you very much, Ahmed. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.